All right, so today we're diving deep into Samantha Harvey's Orbital, but not just the book itself. We're really going to zero in on the audiobook experience over on Audible.
Yeah, so if you're kind of on the fence about whether to give it a listen or not, stick around. We're going to unpack a whole bunch of reviews and offer up some insights that might help you decide.
You know, it's funny because when I first heard about Orbital winning the Booker Prize, I was like, astronauts
Hmm.
in space. Hmm. I wonder if this will translate well to audio.
Right, you'd think it'd be very visual, right? All those descriptions of Earth from orbit.
Exactly. But
Mhm.
then I started reading about the audiobook and the narrator's serenade,
Yeah.
and the reviews are just glowing. I mean, people are raving about how immersive it is.
Yeah, Audiophile even gave it an Earphones Award, which is like their stamp of approval for top-notch audio production.
So color me intrigued. Now, before we get lost in space puns, let's talk about Samantha Harvey herself.
Oh, she's fascinating. I mean, her background is so eclectic. She's the daughter of a builder, studied philosophy, and get this, she even worked at an astronomy museum.
Wow, that's quite the resume. No wonder she's drawn to these big ideas about space and our place in the universe.
And it's not just space. I mean, she's clearly a writer who loves to explore different perspectives. Her debut novel, The Wilderness, was long listed for the Booker Prize back in 2009.
And now she's the first woman to win solo since 2019. The judges basically called Orbital a love letter to Earth.
Yeah.
They were praising its lyricism and its ability to make our familiar world feel strange and new.
Exactly. And it's all packed into this really unique structure. The whole story takes place over a single day on the International Space Station, but that day is actually 16 orbits, 16 sunrises and sunsets. It's like this constant reminder of the cyclical nature of time and our connection to the planet.
So we've got a critically acclaimed author, a unique premise, and an award-winning narrator. But what exactly is this book about? Like, what happens in Orbital?
Okay, so picture this. 6 astronauts from all over the world are up on the ISS. They're observing Earth from this incredible vantage point, seeing its beauty and fragility. But they're also grappling with their own personal stuff. Life lost their place in the universe. It's a story about perspective, about how our view of the world shapes who we are and how we connect with each other.
It sounds like the kind of book that could really make you think,
Yeah,
and maybe even see the world a little differently.
absolutely. And that's where Serenade's narration comes in. I mean, Audiophile described her voice as luminous and praised her measured, thoughtful tone.
So she's not just reading the words, she's really bringing them to life.
Right, and it makes you wonder how she handles those descriptions of specific locations that the astronauts see from space, like Japan as a wisp, or the Philippines being scarily frail. Does she emphasize certain words to evoke a sense of awe or fragility? I'm really curious to hear how she does it.
Me too. It's like she's painting these sonic landscapes with her voice.
Exactly. It's not just about visuals, it's about creating an experience.
I think James Wood from The New Yorker put it best. He called Orbital the strangest and most magical of projects.
It definitely sounds like more than just a book. It's an invitation to think differently about our world and ourselves.
Well said. But before we get too philosophical, let's unpack some of the key themes and takeaways that Orbital explores and how those translate to the audiobook specifically.
Let's do it. So, one of the big takeaways for me was how this book really emphasizes the cyclical nature of time and human connection.
Hmm. Yeah, I noticed that too. The way the story unfolds over those 16 orbits with the sun rising and setting again and again. It's like this constant reminder of how everything is connected.
Exactly. And I think that ties into the astronauts' daily routines on the space station, too. They're up there isolated, following the same procedures day after day.
It's like their lives become these miniature orbits in a way,
Right.
always circling back to the same point.
Right. And that makes those glimpses into their personal lives even more powerful. We learn about their families, their dreams, their regrets.
Oh yeah, like that scene where one astronaut finds out about a death back home. It really hit me hard. Like just imagining dealing with that kind of grief in such an isolated environment.
It's heartbreaking, right? And it makes you realize how much we take for granted down here on Earth. Simple things like being able to hug someone or just be present with them.
And yet, despite all that, there's this incredible sense of awe and wonder throughout the book.
Mm,
Like those descriptions of Earth from space. I mean, wow.
I know, right? And it's not just pretty pictures either. The astronauts are constantly reflecting on the Earth's fragility. They see the signs of climate change, the pollution, the deforestation.
Which makes you wonder if that orbital view, that distance from Earth, is what we need to truly grasp the scale of the problem.
It's like that saying, you can't see the forest for the trees. Maybe we need to step back to really see what we're doing to our planet.
Maybe Samantha Harvey is trying to give us that perspective through Orbital, to make us appreciate Earth's beauty, but also recognize its vulnerability.
Definitely. And that's what makes it more than just a space story. It's a story about humanity, about our relationship with each other and with our planet.
Well said. Now, we've talked about the themes, the setting, but what about the characters themselves?
Hmm.
Do we get to know these astronauts as individuals?
We do. Even though it's focused on their collective experience, Harvey gives us these little glimpses into their personalities, their backstories.
Hmm.
Like one astronaut is obsessed with hummingbirds, another one is carrying a photo of their grandfather who was a World War II pilot.
Ah, that's sweet. It's like those little details that make them feel real, not just astronauts, but people with lives and histories.
Exactly. And I think Sarah Naughty's narration really brings that out. Audiophile praised her for capturing both the grandeur of the setting and the intimacy of the astronauts' personal reflections.
It's interesting how she can balance those two
Yeah.
extremes. Going from these sweeping descriptions of Earth to these quiet, introspective moments.
It's like she's creating a whole world with her voice, drawing you in with both the big picture and the small details.
And don't forget the relationships between the astronauts. Even though they come from different countries, different backgrounds, they form these really strong bonds.
Oh, yeah, like that scene where they're all huddled around a window watching the auroral lights.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful, the way they're described as being drawn like moths to this breathtaking display of natural beauty.
It's a reminder that we're all connected. Even when we're separated by distance or culture, there's something universal about that experience of awe and wonder.
Exactly. It makes you think maybe that's what we need more of in the world. A little more awe, a little more wonder.
Well said. I think we painted a pretty vivid picture of Orbital so far, both the book itself and the audiobook experience.
Oh, we have. But let's get down to brass tacks here. Is this audiobook worth your time? Should you add it to your listening queue?
That's the million-dollar question.
Hmm,
And I think we have a pretty good answer based on everything we've discussed.
we do. But to be fair, we should lay out both the pros and the cons so our listener can make an informed decision.
All right, let's do it. What are the reasons why someone might absolutely love listening to Orbital?
Well, first of all, the writing is just beautiful, and Sarah Naughty's narration takes it to a whole other level. It's like she's painting these soundscapes with her voice.
And the fact that it's a Booker Prize winner? I mean, it's got to count for something, right? It's not every day you get to experience a story that's been recognized like that.
Right. The judges were clearly impressed by the book's lyricism and its ability to make us see Earth in a new way. And when you think about those descriptions of the planet from space, it's almost like the audio format makes them even more powerful. You're not just reading them, you're hearing them come to life through Naughty's voice.
I can imagine it's a very immersive experience, like you're right there with the astronauts looking out the window.
Exactly. And the themes that Harvey explores are so universal and timely. Our relationship with the planet, the search for meaning in a vast universe, the importance of human connection, these are things that we all grapple with, and Orbital offers a really fresh perspective on them.
It sounds like a book that could really stay with you long after you finish listening.
It definitely could. But, okay, let's be real here. There are some potential drawbacks that we should mention, too.
Right, not every book is for everyone.
Uh-huh.
So what might make someone say, maybe Orbital isn't for me?
Well, as we've discussed, it's not your typical plot-driven story. It's more of a contemplative journey, a meditation on big ideas. So if you're looking for a fast-paced thriller or a mystery with lots of twists and turns, this might not be the best fit.
It's more about the journey than the destination, right?
Exactly. And for some listeners, they might really miss having a visual component. I mean, we're talking about astronauts seeing Earth from space. Wouldn't it be amazing to actually see those images while you're listening?
That's true. But on the other hand, there's something to be said for the power of imagination. A good narrator can really paint those pictures for you with their voice.
Oh, definitely. And it actually engages the listener more in a way. You have to actively use your imagination to visualize what's being described.
So ultimately, it's a matter of personal preference. But if our listener is someone who enjoys beautiful language, thought-provoking themes, and a slower pace, then Orbiter might be right up their alley.
Absolutely. But if they're looking for action and suspense, they might want to look elsewhere.
Okay, I think we've given our listener plenty to chew on.
We have. But before we wrap up, I have one final thought-provoking question for our listeners out there.
Ooh, I love a good question. Lay it on me.
Throughout the book, we see how profoundly the astronauts are affected by seeing Earth from space. It shifts their perspective, deepens their appreciation for the planet, and makes them acutely aware of its fragility. It makes you wonder how might gaining that orbital view, that sense of perspective, change our own lives.
It's like stepping outside of our everyday routines and seeing the bigger picture.
Exactly. It might make us reconsider our priorities, our relationships with others, our impact on the world.
Imagine if everyone had the chance to experience that awe-inspiring view of Earth from space. How might it change the way we treat each other and our planet?
It's a really powerful thought, and it reminds me of that famous quote from astronaut William Anders. He said, "We came all this way to explore the moon, and the most important thing is that we discovered the Earth."
So true. Sometimes it takes stepping outside of ourselves to really appreciate what we have.
And if you're curious to explore these ideas further, maybe a journey with Samantha Harvey's Orbital is in order.
Well said. So to our listeners out there, we encourage you to take a moment tonight, look up at the stars, and imagine yourself seeing Earth from orbit. How would it make you feel? What would you realize? And how might it change your view of the world?
And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep looking up.
That's a wrap for this deep dive into Orbital. We'll catch you next time, folks.